Welcome to one and all. We're back today with our journey through the book of Joshua. We're to the 23rd chapter. There are only 24 chapters, so I was never really good at math, but I'm thinking that means that we're almost done with the book of Joshua. So we will have to decide what book we're going to pick up with after that. I am presently leaning toward one of Paul's epistles, or one of the epistles. Have to see. We still have a couple weeks, which gives me lots of time to vacillate and equivocate and hover between two decisions. Little Joshua reference there for what's coming up, not this week. So we're in Joshua 23, and it's, pardon me, got this frog in my throat. So we are in Joshua 23. We are toward the end, and this is really a sermon that Joshua is preaching to the children of Israel. And what this sermon is on faithfulness and faith. The two are definitely related, but we'll look at that as we move forward. And this is one of those sections where you really have to make sure that you're catching the context, not just setting, but also the context as regards the message that he's giving. We'll talk about all that. Chapter 23, a long time afterward, when the Lord had given rest to Israel from all their surrounding enemies, and Joshua was old and well advanced in years, Joshua summoned all Israel, its elders and heads, its judges and officers, and said to them, I am now old and well advanced in years, and you have seen all that the Lord your God has done to all these nations for your sake, for it is the Lord your God who has fought for you. We'll stop there. So he summons all Israel, and then it tells you who all Israel is. All Israel can't come. All Israel's not going to come. This is a conference. He's calling all the leaders, the elders, the heads, its judges, officers, the priests, all of those guys are included in this group. The heads of the clans, the elders of the clans, that's who he speaks to, with the idea that they then take that message, because this wasn't live streamed on Zoom while he did this. They took the message home to their respective tribes, clans, etc. And he says he is old. When it tells us later on that he dies, he's 110. How old he is at this time, we don't know, but we saw last time, I think it was last time, that Caleb was 80 years old at the time and still strong and vigorous as he was when he was young. But we don't know exactly how old Joshua is, but he is old and well advanced in years. The emphasis here is very important. And you have seen all that the Lord your God has done to all these nations for your sake. For it is the Lord your God who has fought for you. If you look at where we are, what's going on, the fact that he's putting forward that it's the Lord who did all this. You didn't conquer these nations. You own fields that weren't yours. You're harvesting fields you didn't plant. You're living in cities that you did not build. The Lord is the one who has given you all of this. And if you look back to the first conflict that they had after they'd come out of Egypt, and they're coming up on the Red Sea, and Pharaoh's army is coming after them. What the Lord said at that time in Exodus 14:14, he said, the Lord will fight for you. This was Moses telling them. The Lord will fight for you. You have only to be silent. In other places, it's other translations. You need only to be still. The Lord is the one who gives the victory. And that is throughout the book of Joshua and all of the journeys of the nation of Israel, that has held true. They didn't do anything. I'll say that again. The nation of Israel didn't do anything. They did not accomplish anything. It says, the Lord says that he sent the bumblebee, the terror, he calls it different things, the hornet in among them. And if you're going up against some really tough guys and you manage to launch a nest of wasps or hornets in among them, what are they doing? They're taking off. They're not going to stay there. That is the picture. So they didn't do anything for the Lord your God. It was the Lord your God who fought for you. Understanding that, and him making this big point about it, he basically says it twice, is foundational for what is to come. If you don't appreciate the Lord's working in the past, in your past, okay, whatever your line of your whatever the timeline of your life is, whatever the timeline of your faith life is, whenever it began, if you don't appreciate that it's all about what the Lord does, about his grace, about his mercy. If you don't understand that, you don't understand grace and you don't understand mercy. And if you don't understand grace and you don't understand mercy, if you don't understand the faithfulness of God in your life, that he has gotten you to the point you are, then you will not do well moving forward. The two are inextricably linked. I have confidence about the future because I look back on my past, and my past goes back to all of this. You need to understand that. No, I wasn't there. I can claim some Jewish lineage, but everybody can. If you go back far enough and you know your family tree well enough, pretty much everyone can. But that's not what I'm talking about. The timeline of my faith goes back to this. This was God doing all this stuff, and he was also doing it for me. He was doing it for you. So all of these miraculous workings, you can look back at as your heritage. So that's my heritage. And then I can look at my own life. In my personal life, one of the members of my family posted today, with your photo album stuff, whatever phone you use, Apple or Android, it'll pop up and tell you, here are photos from 10 years ago today. Well, 10 years ago today, we were at the pool in our neighborhood, and a runaway truck came crashing through and landed in the pool. My son had been lying on a chaise that was bent over and folded in half just a moment before. No one was hurt. The pool was full of little kids. No one was hurt. No one was injured. That's a God thing. Pure and simple. We knew it then. Looking back on it today, those pictures of that truck in the pool, big pickup truck in the pool, we understand that's a God thing. That's a sign that he's watching out and blessing. And that's just one example. There's so many things that you can look at in your life that maybe it's not something as dramatic as a truck not killing your family in a swimming pool on a beautiful June day, but there are things in your life that God has done. You need to appreciate those things. That's why thankfulness is so important for your faith. Just taking time to look back over your life and look for things to give thanks to God about. It's not just, it says that God is enthroned in heaven. He is enthroned on the praises of his saints, of his children. That's how important it is to him. It's also important. We're giving credit where credit is due. We're giving gratitude to the one who deserves gratitude. But that gratitude, here comes a play on words. Are you ready? That gratitude then shapes my attitude as I look forward. He's had me. He's done all this stuff, and none of it did I deserve. I cannot claim credit for anything. What did Joshua say? The Lord your God has done to all these nations for your sake, for it is the Lord your God who has fought for you. That's my life. That's your life. So if I understand that, if I'm thankful for that, then that is going to have direct application. It is going to strengthen me, and it's going to strengthen you for moving forward in your life. And that's where he goes. That's where he goes next. And one more thing I want to make sure and say, because I'll get wrapped up with this other stuff and I'll forget it. As I hear this old man who I've never had the responsibility, anything close to what Joshua has. I don't think anybody living today has the responsibility for this nation that he took over from Moses. And with that responsibility, the loving father's concern for his children, and father, mother doesn't matter. And for those out there in the audience who are older, you know what I'm talking about. What is the most important thing to you? It's not about your retirement. It's not about your money. It's not about any of that stuff. What is it? It's about my kids. It's about my grandkids. It's about their well-being. It's about them and their faith. Because guess what? I'm not always going to be here. Right? That's what we think. I'm not always going to be here. I want to impart as much wisdom to them as possible. And what's wisdom? Wisdom is me teaching my kids based on the goodness of God and the idiocy of my own life and the mistakes I've made. Wisdom comes through pain. Wisdom comes through hardship. Wisdom comes through suffering, right? It'd be great if we could start out life with all the wisdom that we have now. What a different course it would have been. But I only got the wisdom. I have received the wisdom I have now because of that path through which God has been with me all the way. And all of these different places I've been on that journey, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, he had things along the way to teach me. And if I spend time focusing on gratitude in prayer, really asking God to show me the things I need to be grateful for, to give me that insight and wisdom, then guess what it's giving me? It's giving me wisdom and understanding, oh, there's a reason he allowed those things to happen. Oh, there's a reason he caused those things to happen. And it's all for my blessing. It's all for my good. And I want to impart it to those I love. I want to impart it to those I care about. With this ministry, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I do this ministry first and foremost for my family, first and foremost for those I know. I want to strengthen them. After that, I want to impart as much of the blessing of the knowledge of the Word of God that I can to other people as well. And you see that in a much more profound and deeper level here with Joshua. If you just, without me yakking, just read through this chapter, it's about grandpa being worried about the kids, being concerned about the kids and pointing them in the right direction and warning them about the pitfalls that are there. And that's where we are right now, verse 4. Behold, I have allotted to you as an inheritance for your tribes those nations that remain, along with all the nations that I have already cut off from the Jordan to the great sea in the west. So that tells us something. And we talked about this before. Let me find my map. Quit jumping around, Kurt. There was still territory. If you look at this stuff that's not green around here, especially over here and in here, there was still territory to be conquered. And he's going to talk about that. The Lord your God will push them back. Well, how can you know that? Because he's promised to do that. And he's going to say it later. None of what the Lord God has said has fallen to the ground. None of it has failed to come to pass. Every promise he's made has come true. What would you give for a friend? What would you give for a spouse who everything they had ever promised they'd done? Wow. No shortcomings, no failure, no weakness, no weakness. The Lord your God will push them back before you and drive them out of your sight, and you shall possess their land just as the Lord your God promised you. And as we go forward here, and we're not going to look at every one of them, but you notice the blue note with the blue background. Every one of those, as we scroll down, I can go over here and hover and show you, just as the Lord your God promised you. Numbers 33:53, and you shall take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given the land to you to possess it. Everything going through here. And if you go into your own Bible, whether it's a paper Bible or electronic Bible, all of these little notes in the ESV are showing where in Leviticus, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, God said he would do these things. Joshua is talking to them about the faithfulness of God by pointing out, calling their attention to the faithfulness of God. For you and I need to go look at the note, and if I just read through the whole Pentateuch, it would be more fresh in my mind. To them, they knew this stuff. They'd lived this stuff. They'd seen it. It's like me telling you, I can make a reference, a tangential or direct reference to 9/11, and I don't have to explain it to you. Why? Because you lived it. You were there. For my father's generation, it's Pearl Harbor. Everybody remembered where they were when they heard about Pearl Harbor, all those kind of things. That's the way this stuff was for them. Therefore, be very strong to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses. I just, in studying to prepare for this lesson today, absolutely fell in love with this verse. Be very strong. Be very strong. Who doesn't want to be very strong? When I was young, I wanted to be very strong. When I was young, I was a whole lot stronger than I am now. But who doesn't want to be strong? In whatever way, I want to be strong. I want to have courage of character. I want to be a strong person, right? All of those kind of things. Physical strength, that's a nice attribute to have as well. How does he tell them to be very strong? Be very strong to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses. Be faithful. That's what it means. When he said to them to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, he was saying covenant loyalty. Hold to it. Hold to it. It doesn't require perfection because you can't deliver that. It doesn't require perfection. It just requires faithfulness. Be faithful. In Joshua 23:6, so we've got that here. Joshua 1:7, going back to the very beginning of the book, right? He's talking to Joshua, who had the most amazing assumption of power anyone has ever had. All of you out there have had some experience where all of a sudden you had responsibility you didn't have before. I don't think any of us can compare to taking over for Moses. That's what Joshua was dealing with. Moses was gone, and every eye in the nation was looking to him. And what did God say to him? Only be strong and very courageous, being careful. Listen, to do according to all the law that Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. loyalty, faithfulness. He's going to talk in the text where we are now about clinging, about holding fast. I use the picture often because I love the picture of being on a rock in the sea in the midst of a storm, and you just hold on to the rock. That's all I need the strength to do. The rock isn't going anywhere. The rock isn't going anywhere. If I hold on to the rock, I'm not going anywhere. If I hold on to the rock, I'm going to be okay. Those waves may batter me and beat me and buffet me, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll be all right. And the rock is who? Jesus Christ is the rock. For them, at this point in time reference, it's the book of the law, holding fast to it. That is in itself faith. Just hold on. Just hold on. And now we're going to go to, because I can't talk about this stuff, and looking back at all of the examples we have. And here's a good exercise for you. Exercise. I hate that word, but I keep using it. Here's a good faith-building activity. Go read Hebrews 11. Go read Hebrews 11. You can pause for those who aren't on here live. Go read Hebrews 11. By faith, pointing at the different people throughout scriptures. And he runs out of time, and he just throws big blanket statements about those who did this and those who did that and those who did. By faith, they overcame. By faith. It's all about faith. Nothing else matters. The house I'm sitting in, all my possessions, everything I know as being my world, which the more you learn and the older you get, the more you realize that what I thought my world was ain't my world. We've been lied to. There's been all kinds of deception. That's why I called this channel Decoding the Deception. There's just layers and layers and layers of it. That's why I did the video, description in the link below, 18-dimensional chess, all about deception and decoding it. But I want to hold to the truth and not be deceived. And to do that, I look back on all the faithfulness of God so that I can look forward with confidence in his faithfulness in the future. Revelations 2:10. He's telling them they're going to be put in prison for a while, some of them. It's 10 days. It's figurative language. They were going to be in there for a while, but it wasn't indefinite, but they were going to be persecuted. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. I don't care what's coming. That's for us. That's for you. Do not fear what you are about to suffer, whatever it might be. Behold, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison that you may be tested, and for 10 days you will have tribulation. 10's a number of completeness. That's part of the concept of using 10 there. But this is where I was going. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. What doesn't it say? It doesn't say be perfect. It doesn't lay out a list of objectives and goals and things you are to achieve in life. You want to know why a whole lot of people get frustrated and upset and feel like a failure and feel like their life doesn't matter? It's because they're reading off the list that they wrote. God didn't write that list. God says, be faithful. Take my hand. Let's go places spiritually. Let's go on a journey. I'll take you. If I make the list and write it down, I'm going to start seeing all these things I didn't do. All these things I didn't achieve, all these places I didn't go, all these things I didn't see. It doesn't say that. Be faithful. Be faithful. And I'm not saying it's easy to be faithful, but Jesus does say, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my burden is easy and my yoke is light. Did that from memory, so I might have messed it up a little bit, but just be faithful. Be faithful unto death, whenever that death may come. And I want to be at the place in my life spiritually when I don't care when that point comes. I mean, do I want to be here with grandkids and family and all of that and be here for them? Yeah, I do, for as long as possible. That's great. But why worry about something I have no control over? Why worry about something that's in the Lord's hands? All my days are numbered, written down in his book, Psalm 39. Be faithful unto death. Now I will give you the crown of life. What else do you want? What else do you want? I've always said no one ever was lying on their deathbed. No believer ever laid there on their deathbed and said, I wish I'd made more money. I wish I'd traveled the world. No, those things don't matter. They fall away. They fall away. Just be faithful. And that is the message that Joshua is preaching here as he knows he's leaving. He knows he's leaving. He's telling them, just be faithful. Don't turn to the right. Don't turn to the left. There's a million distractions, like that dog in whatever that movie is that you see the little clip sometimes. He's talking and he's all focused on something. He goes, squirrel, right? There are all kinds of things that can distract me. I've got a short attention span. But neither turning to the right or to the left, that you may not mix with these nations remaining among you or make mention of the names of their gods. Don't have anything to do with them or swear by them or serve them or bow down to them. He's saying you're still supposed to drive them out. But you shall cling to the Lord your God just as you have done to this day. Cling, hold fast, just grab on and don't let go. And the great thing is, my hands got a little bit of arthritis now, and they're definitely not as strong as they used to be. But the hands of faith, the strength comes from the Lord. Not about the strength that I have. It's about the strength that he gives me. And he will give me the strength I need to cling, to cleave, to hold fast, just as I have done to this day, just as you here have done to this day. For the Lord, again, he's the one who does the doing. For the Lord has driven out before you great and strong nations. You are where you are now because he got you there. And if you think otherwise, then maybe you're not in the wrong point. Maybe you're not in the right place, or maybe you're not correctly assessing things. And if I don't correctly assess the past, I'm not well equipped to deal with the future. And as for you, no man has been able to stand before you to this day. And there, Joshua 1:5, no man will be able to stand against you all your days. One man of you puts to flight 1,000, as promised in Leviticus 26:8, where it says, 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall chase 10,000, and your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. Says something similar in Deuteronomy. All of these promises, they've come true since the Lord your God, who fights for you just as he promised. Deuteronomy 3:22, you shall not fear them, for it is the Lord your God who fights for you. Promise completion, promise completion, promise completion. How does that allow me to see the future? Be very careful, therefore, to love the Lord your God. If I love, what do? I cling. I cleave. That I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let her go. I'm not going to let them go. Because if I go to reach out and take something else, then I'm letting go of the thing that is valuable, that is most dear. That's why you don't look to the right. That's why you don't look to the left. For if you turn back and cling to the remnant of these nations remaining among you and make marriages with them so that you associate with them and they with you, know for certain that the Lord your God will no longer drive out these nations before you, but they shall be, and listen to how he describes this. And this too, guess what? Warning, 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 warning. In Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and then the fulfillment of it in Judges 3, which we will go to. But they shall be a snare and a trap for you. These were people who used snares and traps, and they knew what this meant. A whip on your sides and thorns in your eyes until you perish from off this good ground that the Lord your God has given you. How does he start this? For if you turn back, if the picture is, the main thing to take away here is you're turning away from me. You're turning away from me. You're not clinging to me. You're turning to something else. You're turning back and away and cling to the remnant of these nations among you. There were still nations among them. He had just told them the Lord will help you drive them out. What you're going to see when you get to Judges, guess what they didn't do? It says that all the people of the age of the elders of Israel, the elders who served under Joshua throughout their lifetimes, Israel remained faithful. But then it goes through in detail, listing out that Manasseh didn't drive out these people and these people and these people, and they didn't, and Benjamin didn't drive out these people and those people. And these very things that he's warning about is what happens. It's what happens. Let's go to Judges 2:3 just quickly. And the angel of the Lord comes. Man, this is so loaded. And we're going to do it because I've moved along fairly well for as much as I've been yakking. We're only 35 minutes in. The angel of the Lord appears at Gilgal, and he says this, the angel of the Lord, I brought you up out of Egypt. This is why in the book of Jude, it says that it was Jesus who brought them up out of Egypt. Because the angel of the Lord is the pre-incarnate Christ. Jesus brought them up out of Egypt. We're back to that two powers, the Trinity, but as they understood it at this time, and the way they talked about it, the two powers in Yahweh. He says, I brought you up out of the land of Egypt and brought you into the land that I swore to give to your fathers. I said, I will never break my covenant with you. I won't do it. God is not a man that he should lie. And you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of this land. You shall break down their altars, but you have not obeyed my voice. What is this you have done? So now I say, I will not drive them out before you, but they shall become thorns in your sides, and their God shall be a snare to you. Pretty powerful stuff. Pretty powerful stuff. And faithful Joshua knew to warn them. He had to warn them. And then if you read through the rest of the book of Judges and all the way, David's still dealing with these guys hundreds of years later. Joshua continues. And now I am about to go the way of all the earth. And you know in your hearts and souls, all of you, that not one word has failed of all the good things that, who? The Lord your God promised concerning you. We would expect with this leader, a president's leaving office, prime minister, whatever, they're leaving office. What do? They blow their own horn. I promised this, I delivered. I said I'd do this, I delivered. I said I'd do this, and I fought for it all the while, and I got this much of it done. He sets it up, and then he hands all the glory. He doesn't really hand it because it is the Lord's glory. He acknowledges that it's the Lord who did everything. None of it failed, that the Lord your God promised concerning you. All have come to pass for you. Not one of them has failed. There is a term that is so important on so many different levels and so many different contexts in our faith. It is the humility of faith. Humility of faith, and it's a multifaceted jewel of truth. The humility of faith, it starts with, I'm such a miserable wretch, I'm such a dumpster fire that spiritually and morally and everything else, that God himself, that angel of the Lord, had to come and take human flesh and live the perfect life that going to come close to and die to forgive me. I'm a wretch. I'm just a mess. So if my journey of faith begins at that point, doesn't that require me to be humble? Who am I? Oh, who am I that for my sake my Lord should take frail flesh and die? Quoting the hymn, "My song is love unknown." I'm nothing. That's just the start of it. Then, if I look at my progression in my life of faith, that journey, it's a hand-in-hand walk with whom? It's a hand-in-hand walk with the Lord Jesus. He's the one who's gotten me where I am. He's the one who has pulled me back from the poor decisions, the errors. He's the one who's redeemed all of that and blessed all of that and used it for my good. It's all about him. It's all about him. That concept that it's all about him and it's not about me, it's humility of faith. I understand who I am, and I acknowledge who he is and praise him for it. And there's nothing but gratitude. Gratitude flows from humility. And what's one of the most amazing things about Jesus? I mean, we go on and on and on about amazing things about Jesus. He humbled himself. He humbled himself. He let creatures, his creatures, kill him. And he didn't have to do it. He could have stopped it all, but he did it. He did it for us. There is, in that humility of faith, there is the important concept of service. I hope I get the reference right. Matthew 20:28, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. If you want to be great, be nobody. If you want to be great, serve, right? You want to see a great mother? She's selfless. The child comes first. If that means no sleep, if it means whatever, the child's well-being comes first. It's service. It's not about me. It's about someone else. Jesus is great because he made himself nothing, and he died as nothing. The crucifixion was reserved for the worst kind of criminal. We see crucifixion, we think, wow, what a lousy, horrible, awful way to die. It was more than that. It was a, we get hung up about executing any criminals, and for the most part, we don't do it right anyway, and we execute all kinds of people who shouldn't be. But they didn't just have one way of executing people. Paul got his head cut off with the sword. Why? Because he was a Roman citizen. Roman citizens didn't get crucified. They were, and getting your head cut off is a pretty merciful way to go as far as execution goes. Crucifixion was reserved for the worst of the worst. It was in itself a humiliating statement because they hung you up there naked and it took you days to die in agony. Pretty daggone humiliating, okay? Service, humility. What do we see in Joshua? What did he do all his life? Do you really think he had much time to enjoy the inheritance he got in the promised land? To just settle back, plant some vineyards, ride a horse, relax with the kids. He didn't have much time left. He'd given his whole life to service to the Lord and service to the children of Israel. What we do unto the Lord, whatever service that might be. Yeah, I'm serving others, but I'm doing that as service to him. Because what's my job? What's your job? What is our job? I am supposed to be Jesus. Christ is formed in us. I'm sanctified. I'm getting to be more and more and more like him. That's the goal. That's the goal. So what did he do? He served. What didn't he do? Complain, whine, ask, can't these people just go away? He never did any of that stuff. We've seen that many times in our study in the Gospel of Matthew. He's exhausted, he's dead beat, he's tired, and all these people come and he can't turn them away. His disciples tell him to turn them away, and he goes, I can't. They're like sheep without a shepherd. And so he'd teach, and then he'd feed them. Okay? Selfless service flows from humility. Humility is foundational to me understanding who I am in Christ Jesus and how I got there and where he's taking me. And that's it affects how we look forward. What are my goals for the future? I want to be like Jesus. That's my goal. Larry Norman, The Rock That Doesn't Roll, 1973. Solid Rock Records. I want to be like him. I want to be like him. If I've got other things set out as my goals, maybe it won't go so well. I'm not saying we shouldn't plan and do all that, but I want to pray about my plans. I want to pray for wisdom and be ready if he turns me in a different direction. But here, back to where we are, is the children of Israel and what they were supposed to do. And when I look at them screw up, I better take it to heart for myself. Let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. And all I have to do, that's the other thing about looking at your own life and looking back. If I want a dose of reality, all I have to do is look at my past. I want to be, can't help it. It keeps popping in my head. Larry Norman. When I look at my past, I feel so strange. I look at that and go, how could I have been that? How could I have done that? How could I have not been what I should have been? Same song, Rock That Doesn't Roll. Highly recommend it. Pull it up on whatever streaming service you use. Larry Norman, The Rock That Doesn't Roll. Okay. And now I am about to go the way of all the earth, and you know in your hearts and souls, all of you, that not one word has failed of the good things that the Lord your God promised concerning you. You know who else, when he's ready to die, says he's going the way of all the earth? He's quoting Joshua, David. All have come to pass for you, not one of them has failed, but just as all the good things that the Lord your God promised concerning you have been fulfilled for you, so the Lord will bring upon you all the evil things until he has destroyed you from off this good land that the Lord your God has given you. Warning, warning. If you abuse the grace of God, if you turn your back on it, if you choose to become sinful, then he's going to make it clear that your sin is utterly sinful. If you transgress the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and go and serve other gods and bow down to them, then the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and you shall perish quickly off the good land that he has given you. When it talks about bowing down to them, going, and the best way to understand how God feels about that, and it's very clear in the prophets, in all the prophets, but especially the major prophets, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Isaiah. And we call them major prophets. Why? Because those are the biggest books. Those were the ones that the Lord used the most to say the most. Then you've got all the other lesser prophets whose books are shorter. When God talks about Israel's unfaithfulness, the thing he uses most often is adultery. You want to know how God feels about us chasing after other things, other gods, making other things our gods. Imagine how you'd feel if your spouse or significant other was unfaithful to you. It's exactly the language that he uses. And he also uses the language of them, the children of Israel, whoring after other gods. Pretty powerful language, but that is how he feels about it. Okay. If there's anything else in here that I missed as I got rambling. Well, I think we got it all. So we're going to wrap it up just a few minutes early. We don't usually do, but I don't want to jump into chapter 24 yet, because that's a big thing with the covenant renewal at Shechem, and it's definitely deserves its own full time slot. Okay, well, I want to thank you all for being here. If you found this video to be helpful, a blessing, then please give us a thumbs up. Invite you to subscribe if you have not, and if you subscribe, make sure and hit that notification bell so that you're notified when we put out new content. We put out new content 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, unless there's a holiday. And also, finally, please consider sharing this video with others. This is Matthias 76. God bless and have a great day. That concludes our broadcast for today. We publish our videos on YouTube, BitChute, and Brighteon. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give us a like or a thumbs up. We invite you to subscribe so you can continue to receive our content. Also, please consider sharing this video with others. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below. This is Matthias 76, and together we will continue to decode the deception.